The Equi-Trek Day-Treka gives me all the features of a 3.5 ton horse box with the convenience of a horse trailer. Now this is quite a jump up money-wise from the trailer that I switched out of 16 months ago, which was the Ifor Williams 511. Since then, I've tested this trailer every single week, sometimes twice a week, competing and training with my nearly 18-hand show jumper. I'm going to give you today the reality of owning a Day-Treka, the good, the bad, and the expensive modifications that I've had to make. So if you're thinking of investing in one of these, by the end of this video, you're going to know whether all of these unique benefits outweigh any downsides for your situation. The only reason I had to come out of the 511 was my horse was simply too tall for it. Price-wise, my Ifor Williams cost me £4,500. That was 8 years ago. So equivalent cost now is around £7,000. This was £13,000. It was a year old. So you can see it's quite a jump from the price of the 511s. So what I really wanted was a larger trailer. And I also wanted rear-facing travel, because as we know, there's lots of research to say horses actually prefer traveling backwards. And I wanted for myself a changing room and a tack room separate from the horse area. So I did look at 3.5 ton horse boxes, but I have got a really good tow car, and I looked at the kind of comparable models for the same budget, and they were just very old and just not great quality. It would be quite a jump up financially to get this kind of newness and quality in a 3.5 ton horse box. Plus, you've got all your extra costs like insurance, taxing, MOTing, and all the extra parts that go with owning a horse box. Plus, we've all seen those kind of broken down lorries on the side of the road, and I just didn't want to go down that road with an old lorry. So if you've been looking into Equi-Trek, you may have heard some of the horror stories. Now, pre-2018, the Equi-Treks were primarily made of wood, and this is where the failings happened. We've all heard the horror stories of horses falling through the sides of Equi-Trek trailers. However, Equi-Trek have addressed this by now everything post-2018 is made with absolutely no wood. So there are 3 trim levels with the Equi-Trek: the Classic, the XL, and the Elite. This is an XL with some added Elite features, which I really liked. If you pause the screen now, here are the features for each of the trim levels. So after 16 months of owning this trailer, I have genuinely got a love-hate relationship with it. Now, I absolutely love the unique features of this trailer. However, there are some really disappointing quality issues with it and some maintenance requirements that really took the shine off it for me. Let's start with what Equi-Trek gets right, because there are some really amazing features that make day-to-day use of this trailer so much better than anything else that I've used before. In terms of towing, this is so much better than the Ifor Williams. It's quiet, it's smooth, it's solid. You hardly know it's on the back of the car, genuinely. So from the very first time I used it, my horse walked straight in. There was no hesitation. And as you can see, there is so much room in here. What I really love about this partition is that it's completely adjustable. The Ifor Williams wasn't, it was a fixed partition. This is adjustable in 3 different areas at the back and many different areas at the front. Now, I like to travel my horse slightly wider at the front here, and he likes to stand herringbone. And he also now eats throughout the journeys, which he didn't used to do before. And I can check all this using the internal camera. So as you can see, there's loads of windows all around this trailer. However, I don't think the ventilation in this trailer is as good as the Ifor Williams. In fact, I'm going to make some modifications, which I'll tell you about in a minute. So all these features really add up to a better traveling experience for me and my horse. The fact that I've got so much room in this partition means tacking up at shows is really easy now. I can get around both sides of him, and he's a big horse. So the main selling point for me for this trailer is this amazing tack room, kind of changing area at the front, which sounds minor, but genuinely, after 16 months of not having to hop around the car park, putting my boots and my jods on, this is a game changer. So the things I love about this tack room is space to sit down, check results, have a coffee. You've got loads of room to put your saddles, bridle hooks, clothes hooks, there's a light. There's a window, although you can't see in with it, so you can still get changed. However, if you look here, you can see that we do have some ventilation issues. And if you look at the mirror that they've provided with the trailer, it's a little bit damaged because of a ventilation issue, which brings me on to some bigger problems. So there are always quality issues with things, I get it, but at £15,000 there are some issues on this trailer that I think need to be spoken about. My first experience was that my horse managed to bend this partition. Now obviously there has to be a payoff between lightness and functionality. It can't be a heavyweight partition, I get it. However, my horse quite easily bent this partition. We're going to put some photos on the screen so you can see what that looked like. And the dealer claimed that they'd never seen a bent partition before, which I just find really hard to believe. My horse wasn't badly behaved, he just leant against it. So to be fair to Equi-Trek, they did manage to straighten up the partition, which was an easy job. It's bent a tiny little bit since then, but nothing like what it was before. So when I first got this trailer, I was driving down a really narrow lane and a branch actually scratched into the side of the trailer and made a little hole, which I had to get replaced. Now, if you live in a really, really rural location where your lanes are super narrow, it's absolutely something you need to think about. I was cleaning the trailer out and I noticed that this was coming away from the side of the wall. Now I know things like this happen, but it did start making me think about how thin this stock board was. And I have got a modification in mind that is hopefully going to improve this. So if you have a look at the rubber matting, you can see here where it started to degrade where he stands. Now I will admit that he does sometimes weave, but it's not a consistent thing. He does it for a few minutes when we get to a show and then settles down. So I was actually quite surprised at what's happened here with this rubber. I remember the trailer that I had before, the 511, I had that for 8 years and it didn't degrade anything like this. So I think there could possibly be a quality issue with the rubber that they use. When you buy one of these Equi-Trek trailers from new, you have to follow a certain servicing protocol in order to maintain your warranty. Now, I was quite shocked when I heard about this. You have to get it serviced after 3 months, 6 months, and then 12 months, which is fine if you're happy to do that and you live closely to one of the dealers. Now, I live in the Midlands, which annoyingly, every dealer is about an hour and a half to 2 hours away. So you need to consider that kind of commitment if you're buying one from new. So one of the problems I had with this was that the lights became really intermittent. It wasn't the bulbs, everything seemed fine. So I got an independent electrician to come and have a look. He took it all apart and the wiring job was shocking. There were exposed wires touching, so it was no wonder that the lights weren't working properly. So Equi-Trek have obviously moved forward since the pre-2018 days when there were lots of quality issues. However, I don't think all the quality issues have been resolved. And I'm going to make some big changes to my trailer. I'm going to do this myself because I love the trailer, but I just think these things need to change. Let me talk you through it. So ventilation wise, I think it needs more airflow. So I'm going to fit 2 Flettner air vents, one in here and one in the tack room area that will hopefully deal with some extra circulation and just keep things super fresh for the horse when he's traveling, and also for the tack room area to keep it a little bit drier. Second of all, I'm going to replace this rubber matting. Probably not in the next 12 months, but certainly in the next couple of years. I think this is all going to need to be redone. The third issue, I'm going to pad and replace this stock board. I don't think this is strong enough. It, to me, feels quite flimsy. So I'm actually going to replace all of this and have something a little bit more like this around the entire travelling area for the horse. So I feel with these modifications that we've nearly got the trailer that Equi-Trek should have made. However, is this trailer for everybody? Absolutely not. Let me tell you who I think should buy this trailer and who absolutely should not. If you've got a horse that's a particularly bad traveller, I wouldn't recommend an Equi-Trek trailer. I just don't think that they're robust like the Ifor Williams is. If you've got a horse that will stand quietly and travel well, then absolutely go for it. So would I buy this trailer again? I absolutely would, because the upsides far exceed the downside. So if you can put those tiny little issues to one side, I think you'll have a great experience with this trailer. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe.